Hello everyone. So this is the second video in my introduction to copywriting series. I did my introductory video yesterday, just kind of clarifying what copywriting is, and now we're going to start getting into more of these specifics. So with this video today, I want to cover the foundational idea behind writing good advertising copy. So the core idea is this. You want your advertising copy that you write to be specific. Specificity is going to be the driving thing behind everything that you write. And I'm not necessarily talking just writing the actual copy itself. I'm not saying, the words that you write need to be clear and understandable and specific to the product. I mean, the way you market, who you come up with for your customers, your ideal customer, the way you think about your product, it needs to be in specific terms. Now, we live obviously in the 21st century, and if this video were to be made maybe half a century ago, the advice probably would be a bit different. But given the fact that we are in the 21st century, specificity is the most paramount thing to copywriting, simply because the internet age has, and I guess to a broader degree, like economics and globalization as well, it's stratified everything to where all products and services, for the most part, need to be tailored towards a niche. And when I say niche, what I mean is a specific audience. Your product, whatever you're selling, most likely is not going to be something that the majority of consumers are going to use, or it's not going to be targeted towards them. I'm going to throw up on the screen here in a second a quick little image of a bell curve so everyone can see what that is. All right, for those of us that may not know what a bell curve is, here is an image of it. What it is basically is it's a display of really any sort of population. And so for us, basically what we want to think of it as is the display of our consumers. And as you can see in the bell curve, the majority of consumers obviously stand in the middle of that. And again, half century ago, products might have been more tailored towards the middle of that bell curve. But what you're seeing more now with products is a very specific item for very, very specific people. Often products nowadays tend to go more towards the tail end of this bell curve. Towards the end, unless you're a big corporation like maybe Walmart, for example, right? Walmart sells everything, right? Like if you go, Walmart sells numerous products. Who you are going to be creating copy for, either for your own product or for someone else, most likely is for a very specific audience. It's a much smaller audience and very specific, and it is geared more towards a certain group. And this is a good thing. As a general rule with the internet nowadays, the more specific things are, the stronger you are in areas of things like SEO, for example, which is search engine optimization, which I can do maybe a separate video series on that. But basically, it's just getting your product and your service ranked basically on sites like Google. You're also going to stand out more as well. If you have advertising copy that tailors towards a very specific group of people, you're going to stand out amongst products that sell towards the middle of that bell curve, right? Because yes, you're trying to get the most customers in your mind, you're trying to get the most people, but that end till the bell curve, if you can get a product geared towards that, those are going to be your most loyal fans. So you're going to stand out. You're also going to be seen as kind of an authority in the space, right? Like if you can gear something the best towards a certain group of people, you're going to be the authority. And with being the authority, you get a certain level of reward with that, ideally financially. The guy who sells something very specific to a group of people and sells the best of that, well, they can charge the most money. So you're making the most money. You have the most loyal fan base as well. And in the long run, you're going to be better off catering towards this very specific group rather than trying to get the most amount of customers in the middle. The other reason I'm advocating for you to be more specific is that ultimately the distribution of where you make your money versus your customers is very stratified. And so what I'm trying to say basically is the Pareto Principle. If you're not familiar with the Pareto Principle it is simply a sort of general rule of business that 20% of your efforts produce 80% of your reward, right? In a very, very short kind of application, it would be 20% of your customers are going to provide 80% of your organization's income. If this is your first time hearing of the Pareto Principle, I imagine that this might be a little bit shocking. And I would encourage you to do a bit more study into that on your own. If you just quickly look it up, you'll see different applications of where this is applied and kind of rough estimates of where it applies. It goes from every kind of facet of life. It seems to revolve around this idea of 20% of your work producing about 80% of your income or your benefit. And so the more specific you can be, the more you're going to tailor your product towards that 20% of your customers. Even if you already have a customer base already, if you're following the Pareto Principle here, it's most likely that about 20% of your customers is producing about 80% of your organization's income. And so the more you can tailor your ad copy to this 20%, forget the other 80, produce this to this 20%, the more you're going to end up benefiting in the long run from that. And so that is, in I guess a very short video, why I'm saying the foundation of copywriting is on the idea of specificity. I'll obviously, as the series goes on, we'll get more into the kind of the nuts and bolts and the hands-on aspect, but you need to understand this part first before I go deeper into more of questions in the ideal customer, in the descriptions of your products, and then, sort of how to create the copy. So that's it for this video. Again, very foundational, but you need to understand the necessity of specificity first before you start going any further with trying out the more hands-on applications of copywriting.